Welcome to CAM Matters, Condos, Co-ops, HOAs, and beyond. Betsy Barbieux is an informational leader in Florida on community association living, rights, and obligations. She is an expert on the rights and obligations of owners as well as the association. If you live or are planning to live in the state of Florida, there's a good chance you'll be part of a community association. And by the end of this show, you'll know a little bit more about community associations and why they matter.
Hi, and welcome to CAM Matters. I'm your host. I'm Suzanne Lynn with Betsy Barbieux. And Betsy, today I am shocked and been doing these videos for so long. And this is the first I'm hearing about this booklet that you've got of all this amazing information you put together. First of all, welcome. And how did this booklet come about?
Oh, my goodness. It's called CAM Care, and it is a brain dump of all of the emotional support facilitating training that I've had through the years. I'm not a mental health counselor by any means, but I am a lay support group facilitator and had a lot of training in boundaries and listening and talking skills, stress management, a whole lot of people with difficult emotions, difficult pasts and things to overcome. And it's just a brain dump of a bunch of stuff that I learned.
But what this is doing is, I know it's specifically geared for managers, but I mean, I'm looking through the stuff. This is good for everybody.
It's good for everybody. And it was not, originally I learned all of these skills, 25 years ago, and it wasn't for managers. It was actually done in a church setting.
Okay.
So there was a spiritual aspect to it, and which I can apply or not.
Right.
Because it's still just emotional health. And
right.
CAMs right now, I'm talking to more and more right now who are saying, I quit. These law changes have just done it. These law changes have just done it. And then it's like, well, let's just calm down here a minute. Because I've already had my fit. And
well, Betsy,
see if we can deal with the extra work. Let's see if we can deal with the extra stress. Let's see if we can make an effort to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Coming right out of the chute with this, I've got two that I want to hit out of the many, and we'll do a follow-up series to this.
Yeah,
but
we're going to have to do another show.
There is so much information in each one of these. Every topic could be its own show, but let's just break it down to two today. But the first I want to say is with these topics, you had offered these back in 2015, but you're reconsidering now because you might have been a little bit ahead of your time.
I was offering them as an online lunch and learn.
Okay.
And I think I was ahead of my time.
Okay.
With the online classes. So since COVID, people have gotten used to online. Yeah. And, if you listen to this and you'd like me to bring some of these 1 hour lunch and learns back, I've got several topics that we could do. And it gives you an hour of HR. And some of that gives an hour of elective or some other things. So I can bring them back.
I am so excited about this one. The first, right when you open the pamphlet, the very first one is boundaries. And I'm guessing that your experience with CAM and communities and, life and family and people in general is the reason the boundaries is the very first one out of the chute. Talk to me about boundaries.
Well, I think managers get confused as to where and what boundaries they can set. And let me just say, there are several different kinds of boundaries. There's obviously a touch boundary. Mm-hmm. We don't touch at work. No touch. There's a word, right? Mm-hmm. There's a word boundary. You can't say those words in front of me. Right. There is an emotional boundary.
Right.
There are geographical boundaries.
Right.
And most of us learn the very important boundary word when we're 2. Mm-hmm. And that is the word no.
Right. Right.
And 2-year-olds learn it real well.
Sure. It's us adults
But it's the adults who lose that ability to set a boundary. Now, granted, 2-year-olds don't really know that they're setting boundaries, and that may not be what they're doing. But they do express a dislike for something that's being done or not done. I have some tips here on boundary reminders, and it probably are self-explanatory if I just read through a couple of these.
Okay, please
look over here and read them.
Yeah, please do.
I was going to add one more boundary as a consequence boundary. Some people need to suffer the consequences of their own actions without other people intercepting them.
Right.
That's another boundary. So we've got words boundary, geographical boundary, emotional, other people. There are some people that you don't need to be around or you need to significantly limit your time around them.
Right.
And then the consequences. The first one, the first boundary reminder is let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Right.
If you mean yes, say yes. If you mean no, say no. When you say no, you can often offer an alternative.
Right.
So
I can't, but I know someone who can.
Yeah. Or I don't want to go to Sonny's for lunch, but I can go to Takis.
Right.
So instead of just saying no, which just kills the conversation, it's like, well, okay, so are we going to starve or what?
Right.
And so where do we go? You offer a deal. You toss back so that the conversation keeps going.
Right.
But you can tell you've said yes too many times when you really meant no, because all of a sudden you blow up. And then it goes like this. You always want to go to Sonny's. You know I don't like Sonny's.
Right.
And the other person's going, but you said it didn't matter.
Yeah.
To win. But you know I don't like it. But you still keep going there. But you said it didn't matter.
So your yes is yes and your no is no.
So if it really matters, you need to say no, but then you can toss back and offer a deal.
I love that.
That way you can continue the conversation and find some place to eat.
What's the next one?
Let's see. Oh, I will not be a spiritual clairvoyant and try to guess what other people want me to say.
Okay.
And a lot of times,
I'm a terrible guesser. So don't put me in that position,
If you say something, other people should be able to take those words at face value.
Right.
And instead of,
right. Sometimes they say one thing, but then they do another. So, your words have to match up to the actions as well.
The words have to match the actions, but then you may have already had some experience with that person, and maybe you need to clarify.
Right.
And have a little more conversation. Okay, well, you're saying you'll do this, but remember last time? Mm-hmm. And maybe have a little more conversation about that. But if you, and I'm really bad, I guess, at this, but somebody walks by and, how you do? Hi, how are you? Fine, how are you? Kind of thing. Well, if they say fine, then I'm going to go with that.
You're fine.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to believe your words, even if you don't look fine.
Right.
Now, if it's proper and have the opportunity and the time, and it's, part of my role, and you don't look fine, but you said fine, then I may stop you or talk with you later on and say, are you really okay? But
see, what's happening there is a break in trust. Your words are not matching, and there's a break in trust when that happens.
And I don't, most of us don't have time to sit around, I guess. And again, that's part of that spiritual clairvoyant thing. I don't really have time to guess what you meant, right? If you meant something else, it's okay for you to say
what you mean and mean what you say.
It's okay.
It's simple. Yeah.
Resentment is a signal that you should have said no sooner.
Tell me more about that.
When you say yes, when you really meant no, and it builds up over and over, you have that resentment. And then that's where you blow up and say, well, I don't want to, I hate Sunnies.
Right.
And when you blow up, you've got that resentment building.
Yeah.
And then you
let it go too far.
You should have said no a long time ago. You've said yes when you really meant no.
Right.
People with good boundaries are seldom angry. My husband's one of those. The only thing that makes him mad is the dog.
You said more about that. Tell me more what you mean by not the dog, but I mean about
not the dog.
About the
but
it.
If you have good boundaries, then you let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Right.
And if you haven't had good boundaries, people push you and push you and push you and push you, and you eventually get mad. But who you're really mad at is yourself. But you're going to spew all over them and blame them. Well,
what causes people to not have boundaries? What's the reason or reasons for that?
Well, now that's where you get into a lot of past psychology and emotional traumas and experiences. And again, I'm not a clinician or a mental health counselor or anything, but children learn boundaries when they're little. Mm-hmm. And children learn the words, the names of the emotions that they feel. They learn those names when they're little. What can I say? Okay, so we've got a little girl. She's in the kitchen. She's two years old, and she's running around the kitchen, and there is a hot pot on the stove. And she reaches up. She's just barely big enough to reach up and touch that, and she burns her fingers. And so now she is screaming and crying, and she's looking toward the adult in the room. She's doing this, like, this hurts. Help me. Right. This hurts. A loving, caring parent will swoop her up and hold her in their arms and say, it's okay, sweetie. It's okay. Mommy, daddy, brother, sister, whoever that adult is, we'll take care of it. That hurts, doesn't it? You burned yourself. So we've got words now that even a 2-year-old begins to store. But if that adult, when she reached up and touched that, didn't console her, didn't comfort her, and said, I told you that's what was going to happen. You deserve it. That doesn't hurt. Quit crying. It doesn't hurt. So now this child has no way, no frame of reference of this hurt to the words. So she doesn't learn that this hurts. And when that happens over and over again, she will begin to realize, or he, whichever it is, will begin to realize there's a sense of, I'm the child, they're the adult, they know. And if they tell me it doesn't hurt, or if they tell me we don't let anger in this house, no one in this house is ever angry, well, then I have seen some women, because in these situations I only deal with women, the only emotion that was allowed in the family was a giggle or a laughter. And so whether they're mad, whether they're happy, whether they're sad, whether they're hurting, they giggle or laugh.
So they've been conditioned. Mm-hmm. They're not really using their emotional intelligence. They've been conditioned with how they have to respond.
And that is not going to be healthy in a relationship, right, whether it's a relationship at work or a relationship at home. And I've had some women tell me, I've never been angry before. And I'm like, you have. And it's funny because one time one lady was sitting there clutching her chair, saying she'd never been angry before. And I said, you look like you're angry now.
You look like you're angry right now. Mm-hmm. Betsy, I mean, look, let's take a break. And let's come back to this. That was not my plan. I thought we were going to move on, but
we're not getting very far in this little booklet.
Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a new career? Do you have skills or interest in management, real estate, construction, maintenance, accounting, strategic planning, project management, budgets, human resource management, lawn and landscaping, pool services, or any other expertise needed to operate a community association? If you do, community association management could be for you. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Florida Community Association Management continues to grow. Career opportunities abound.
Welcome back to the Boundaries Show. That's pretty much what we're talking about right now, but it comes from a pamphlet that Betsy put together, and we're just kind of on the tail end of talking about boundaries. What are your thoughts on a few more reminders about boundaries?
Well, I've got like 12 things here. We can talk about more of them later, but one of the last ones, which might be longer than what I want to spend time explaining, is that you can always renegotiate your boundaries. Right. There are people that you share your hopes, dreams, fears, and failures with, and there are others that you do not. You would talk to them about the weather or the traffic or the elevator's slow, but you would not reveal to them your hopes, dreams, fears, and failures. We have a tendency to think that family members should be safe enough for us to talk about our hopes, dreams, fears, and failures. But if we mention them, we get slammed or put down with them. Mm-hmm. And you get, or the conversation gets taken away from you, or it goes back to, that doesn't hurt. You should see the trouble I had today at work. My day was worse than yours. And then that person starts doing a one-up on you. That hurts. And then you learn that when they say, how was your day? You just say, fine.
Right.
You don't converse with it because you've learned that they're not a safe person.
They're not safe and there's pain. Yeah.
And so if that situation were to change and they were to become more empathetic and develop some listening skills, then you can renegotiate that boundary.
Right. You hit on a good word there. And I think this is a good place to end the boundaries, but empathy. Share some thoughts about how important it is to have empathy.
Well, empathy is different than sympathy, and people get them mixed up. Empathy is being able to put yourself in the place of the other person.
Right.
And like if you were telling me a story about, I don't know, one of your boys having a really hard time and it was impacting you, I would say, to be empathetic, I would say, I can tell that just breaks your heart.
Right.
I'm going to feed back to you what you're feeling, not solve the problem, not coach you or counsel you or reprimand you or say, well, he'll just have to figure it out himself and suffer his own consequences.
Right.
The conversation is about you. And so my job as a listener, whether a friend or in a coaching situation, my job is to feed back emotions. That's all empathy is. It isn't feeling sorry for the person, particularly. It's just feeding back to them the emotion that you think they're feeling.
Yeah. You hear them. You hear their heart. You hear what they're saying.
And the first time I remember actually practicing that was with my son. He would come home from school every day crying because he had taken a football and the kids didn't want to play football with him. They took his ball and they played with it and then wouldn't choose him for their team. So he'd get in the car, lock the door, make sure he was safe, and then he would just burst out crying about how all the kids were mean to him. And I would try to do the parent thing and say, well, then, you try to correct him. And then he just clammed up. One day I got this little tap on the shoulder and it felt like God was saying, why don't you practice what you preach? And so he got in the car one day, he's crying, and he was telling me they took his ball and everything. And I said, that really hurts your feelings, doesn't it? Well, the floodgate of tears happened. And he would just go, and next time I'm not going to take it. Next time I'm not going to share. Next time I'm not going to do this. I did not do any of the parenting, be kind to your neighbor thing. Right. I didn't do any of the parenting stuff. I just kept saying, yeah, I can tell that upsets you a lot. It does seem kind of unfair. And he'd cry some more and everything. And, by the time he went to bed that night, he had self-corrected. He was praying. Self-cry.
And
he was praying for the little kids. And he said, I'll take my ball again tomorrow and try. I didn't have to say a word. I didn't have
the trust that you built with him is priceless.
Golly, I think it's the emotional thing about it. But and I'm thinking, well, all this parenting that we all do, if we would empathize a little bit more, our children would self-correct instead of push away from us.
I love that. All right, let's end boundaries there. We can always come back to it, but I want to touch a little bit on emotional development because I've always said, IQ, yeah, that's impressive and everything. You can be somebody with EQ, and I am impressed. Emotional intelligence is way more important than intellectual intelligence to me.
And the new buzz phrase is emotional intelligence. I'm going to just go back to some old school things and suggest that there are 3 levels of emotional development. And what the IQ stuff is, or EQ things that we're talking about in today's world, is one of these levels of emotional development.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to that 2-year-old that we're going to go back to, we are born dependent. We are born emotionally, physically, everything dependent. Everything that we need has to be provided to us when we're born. So the only way we can get what we need is to fuss and scream and cry and holler. We can't talk. Eventually, our parents or the caregiver learns the wet cry, the hungry cry, the angry cry, the tired cry. We eventually learn, oh, she's just tired. Oh, he just needs a nap. We learn that of that child. Around 2 years old, that child begins, and up until that point, that the child is physically attached to the caregiver. We carry him around everywhere we go. And they emotionally believe that they are attached to the caregiver. And that's why when you pry your child off of you and give them to the daycare worker or the Sunday school teacher, they scream and cry and holler and clutch because there's an emotional feeling of I'm being ripped from my parent.
Right.
So they don't like that. But by the time they get to be 2, they've learned that they're mobile. And now they can crawl, and they have realized they are not
Yes.
They are not attached to you. And they begin creating that boundary of, I know I'm not attached to you by the word no. And that's the beginning of them understanding their physical boundary. And then as they grow a little bit more, they'll begin to get further away. So then they can walk away, they can tricycle, bicycle. But in those beginning stages, I call it the me stage. Everything revolves around me. Feed me, dress me, make me happy, entertain me. It's a me stage. You are to provide for me, and all I have to do is fuss and whine enough. You should know what I want.
Right.
You're supposed to outgrow that stage.
Yes.
But we know adults who are 60 and 70 years old who have not grown out of that stage. These are the ones who come and visit at the manager's office, and they come in and sit down and visit with you. They don't have any social skills, so they don't notice that when you're looking at your watch or you're picking up your phone.
There's no social.
Those are social cues that say,
right.
Oh, and every time
life revolves around them.
Right. And so they don't pick up on social cues.
Right.
So you have to tell them, just like you would the neighborhood kids who were 5 years old. When it's dinner time, you say, go home. Your mother's calling you. Go home.
Right.
And you know what? They come right back the next day. It doesn't hurt their feelings. The neighborhood kids. Well, that 60 or 70-year-old person who is still in the me stage, you can say, look, Ralph, I've got a meeting. Tell you what, if you come back tomorrow at 10, I'll have 5 more minutes to spend with you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. And then you usher them out. Because
the boundary you set up, you didn't cut them off. You gave them another opportunity, but you also put a time limit. You put a time limit on there.
I've got 5 minutes for you tomorrow, but I've got to do some things now. Because if you're depending on them to pick up on the social cues, like got your phone, your purse, your briefcase, whatever, that you're heading out the door, they don't pick up on those. So you just have to tell them. We're supposed to then that stage lasts probably into the early teens, or early, no, it actually lasts to about 20, because they'll go, the next stage is the independent stage that starts around 2 or 3 years old and lasts until the early 20s. And so that me stage begins to move into the independent stage when they become mobile and they learn the word no. And so now you can ride a bike, you can drive a car, you can be in charge of some of your own time and money. And so that stage, they will go in and out of the me stage and the independent stage. And this is where parents go nuts, because one day they'll have this compliant little child, and then the next day they will be the independent, defiant teenager.
Right.
And they go back and forth. It's in this independent stage that they need to learn to make decisions. And we've had whole 2 or 3 generations now of helicopter parents that have not let children make mistakes and fail or hurt themselves. They fix everything for them. So by the time they get to their 20s, they have not practiced being in control of their time or their money.
Right.
And so the parents haven't let them practice that. So by the time you get into your early 20s, when you should begin to start moving to the third stage, is they're being delayed. In this middle stage, the independent stage, this is a stage, and if you think about a teenager, it says, I know it all.
Yeah.
I'm grown now. I know it all. And they argue and argue and argue with their parents. You could say the sky is blue, and they'll say, no, it's not.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what you say. They will argue with you. You're supposed to outgrow that stage. But we have many, many successful business people, entrepreneurial workers, parents. We have very successful people in that stage, but you have to let them work alone, because they will do a one-up on you no matter what you say.
Right.
No matter where you've been, they've been better. No matter what you've accomplished, they've done better. There's always a one-up, and they just can't play in the sandbox with other people. They have to be in charge or do a one-up. We're not supposed to grow up to be independent, which is kind of what Americans think. You're supposed to go one more stage. And the next stage, which you really physiologically cannot grow into until your mid-20s, because your brain isn't fully wired. The next stage, the highest stage, is the we stage. I've got the me, the I stage, and then the we stage, me, I, we stage that says, you know what? I'm secure enough with myself that I know I don't know it all. So I will gather a bunch of other smart people around me, and I will ask questions, and I will learn even more. And 2 or 3 heads are better than one. Mm-hmm. And by developing a bigger, wider network, you actually become a smarter person. But when you say in that I stage of I know it all, I think you don't. And you're not fun to be around.
You're not. I was just watching a documentary on this great television and movie producer, And his son was talking about how if somebody who was serving lunch, bringing water to the actors said, oh, I think a line there would be funny if they did this, this director would say, let's try it. He would listen to everybody. There was no status of, oh, well, you've got a title and you're delivering food. It was whatever makes this better. Let's just be open to it. Betsy, oh my goodness, we could go on and on. I mean, I love this stuff, but I want to move on. First of all, the booklet, can we make this available for friends who are watching this?
Yeah, if somebody will write me, I can, or call me, email me, I will make it available to you as a PDF. I can email it to you. And if you're really interested, I mean, I can bring this back. It's already approved. It's a 1-hour HR class. I can bring back the luncheon ones. I used to have them, but I think I was ahead of my time.
Yeah. We just scratched the surface. I mean, I get so jazzed with this stuff. This is really fun. Okay. So before we land this plane, we've got to talk about, Yes.
Let's
talk about, that's your ad. Yeah.
Yearly Educational Summit is coming up August 15th and 16th. That's a Thursday and a Friday here in Leesburg. I have the most awesome sponsors. I have Vice Painting, who is my event sponsor, and it's because of Matt and Jean that I get to have the fabulous venue that I have. We have Juniper Landscaping. We have Valley Bank. We have the Journal that does the advertising, Stone Building Solutions, Asphalt Restoration Technologies. Connie will do our happy hour. The Unlimited Restoration Incorporated will be one of our lunch sponsors. Vision will be our education sponsor, and that's Hotwire Vision. And then IGC, Insurance General Contractors, will be another lunch sponsor. And I'm just delighted to have such wonderful sponsors because it just makes the venue and the food. And our happy hour will be across the parking lot at the Ski Beach Restaurant. And it just gives us more time to network and hopefully become more we instead of I or me. Yes. The more you can widen your network, the smarter you are.
And there's still time to sign up?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I already have probably about 47 registrations, and we still have about 5 weeks to go. So get your name in and come join us.
Betsy, what a great show. Let's pick back up on this pamphlet. Let Betsy know if you want to get a hold of that. And please like and share this content. This information is so important. Betsy spends a lot of time and effort putting education out there in these episodes. So thank you for joining us. We hope that you have a great day. Betsy, thank you. You are loved, and we'll talk to you in August.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to CAM Matters. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. For more information, feel free to email Betsy at betsy@floridacamschools.com or visit the Florida Cam Schools website at www.floridacamschools.com. Information provided on this show is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact a licensed attorney for your specific situation.